Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about finding a co-op as a first year student. This isn't some inspirational video about how a first year student found a co-op at Apple or something. This is just me sharing my experience with you as an average student who did not really do any extracurriculars in her first year. So I'm going to be talking about how the process works on WaterlooWorks and how many applications I sent on WaterlooWorks, where else I applied outside of WaterlooWorks, how many interviews I got, some of the stats on the first year chemical engineering and first year engineering employment rates, and just some advice I want to give. So WaterlooWorks kind of splits their job postings into 3 different rounds. So the first round, there's 2 postings, and each posting, your max amount of applications you can submit increases by 50. So the first one is 50, and I submitted 50 in the first posting, and then the second one, there weren't really any new jobs, so I think I only submitted 2. And then after that period is the interview period where the companies will contact you for interviews and then rankings. But the first round, I didn't get any interviews. First round, I made cover letters for almost all of the jobs I was applying to, and I got no interviews, which really discouraged me. So for the second round, I kind of was looking more at the jobs that didn't require cover letters because I was putting so much time towards making the cover letters and I got no interviews, so I sort of like, okay, wait, let me just try something different. I also changed up my resume for the second round, so I applied to mainly jobs that didn't require cover letters for the second round. I still applied to a handful of jobs that did require cover letters because they were just really interesting to me, and in the second round I still got no interviews. Then the third round's kind of different from the first year rounds. The third round's like the continuous rounds where there's 4 different cycles, I think, 3 to 6, and then job postings happen pretty much every day and they last for 2 days, and then they'll contact you for an interview, and then rankings happen each week, so it's just a lot faster and it's like continuous. I applied to around 48 in the first week, and I managed to get 2 interviews from that. Outside of WaterlooWorks, I applied to jobs on Indeed, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, like just a bunch of different job boards, and I was just constantly looking at different jobs on different websites and would go on company websites that interested me and applied to those too, but I'm not really sure how many I applied to because there isn't really something that can tell me the number. I got one serious interview. Like for banks, they always send out an interview request after you send in your application, so it's sort of like part of your initial application, but like this one was actually, they looked over the application and then they're sending the request for an interview. The 3 interviews I got were all related to environment, so I was pretty happy about that because I'm looking into doing a specialization in the environment field, so I definitely wanted to try a co-op in that field. So throughout this whole process, I definitely did not stick to the same resume or the same cover letter. I was constantly switching. After first round, when I got no interviews, and second round, I switched my cover letter completely. If you compare cover letter at the very beginning of this process and my cover letter now, it's completely different. And I recommend getting your resume critiqued at least twice, because going into university you could have like a really bad resume and cover letter, and I think the first critique is super important because they'll definitely point out things that's on a typical resume and cover letter or that's not, and that you should remove, like very obvious things that you may not have noticed, and that's really good to sort of get a good base. And then once you change all of that, I think it's good to get another person to critique it just in case there's anything you missed, and then they'll also input some of their opinion. But I think after that, resume critiques aren't that important because everyone has different preferences on how they like their resumes, and it's sort of just up to you on what you prefer, because employers also like different resumes. Like some employers just like the standard black and white, like you're just listing out things, but some employers prefer more of like a design. So it's just up to you, but I definitely recommend getting your resume checked like a couple times at least. So out of the 3 interviews, I got 1 match, and that is the co-op I will be working at during the summer term. For interviews, my one advice is to prepare for them. Like, I know that seems really obvious, but if you're like me, I swear I literally self-sabotage, and while I'm preparing for interviews, I'm thinking about all these possible questions you're asking me, and I prepare like halfway through my answer and I sort of stop because I want to seem spontaneous or whatever, and I think like if I think of a whole answer, I'm not gonna seem spontaneous, but I end up just blanking out because I'm not great on the spot. My first interview was absolutely horrendous because I did that and I was like, okay, no more, and I started writing out all my answers to possible questions and sort of practicing how I'd say it and making sure that I'm comfortable and I don't sound all stiff, and I think that actually really helped me. And also because the people that were interviewing me were just really nice, so I was able to not be so tense. Yeah, just practice. Don't be like me. Prepare your answers. Now I'll be going over some of the stats for first year engineering and chemical engineering employment rates. The employment rate for first year chemical engineering looking for spring term co-op is 36.8% right now, and the employment rate for first year engineering students looking for spring co-op is 52.2%. I'm also going to be saying the first year students that were looking for a co-op this term, so the ones that are currently on co-op, because I feel like that will give a better understanding since there's still a lot of time to look for co-op for the spring term. So the employment rate for first year chemical engineering students for this term, so January to April, is 70.3%, and the first year engineering employment rate for this term is 81.6%. So that's probably what the employment rate for the term looking for spring will look like in probably a month or so, but yeah. So I'm not going to talk too much about sort of like the stress and everything, but basically I was stressed and I definitely wanted to find a co-op early. So like in the first round and the second round of WaterlooWorks, I was definitely disappointed. Even though I expected it, I was sort of just like stressing out because I wanted to get a job as soon as possible. I'll probably be going over more about like my experience like stress wise and like time wise with co-op in a future video where I recap my first year, but don't stress out like me. You will find a co-op. It will be fine. You will be fine. Even if you don't, there's different programs and other opportunities you can do that will help you gain more experience to find a co-op in the future. I hope this video was able to help someone or reassure someone and comfort someone that you don't have to be a super outstanding person with a 4.0 GPA, 10 extracurriculars, and 10 awards to get a co-op. So don't stress out like I did and focus on school too. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, if you have any questions or comments, you can comment them down below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!